All right. Ready?
Yep.
Great. It is 7 p.m. on Monday, November 18th. I will call this meeting of ANC 5, the November meeting of ANC 5F to order. I will start with a roll call. Commissioner Hurst is not present. Commissioner Sani?
Present.
Commissioner Williams?
Can't see her online.
All right, is not present. Commissioner Galvin?
We are unable to hear you, Commissioner Galvin.
Commissioner Galvin we see him on the internet.
Yep. Try again.
Present.
Great. Commissioner is myself, and I am present. Commissioner Bishop Henchman?
Here.
Great. And Commissioner Pinckney is not present. So with 4 commissioners out of 7, we have quorum, and meeting is now in session. The first order of business is the approval of the agenda. The agenda has been placed on the internet. If you'd like to follow along, it is at anc5f.com. I'm going to propose a quick addition of kind of a late addition that was just a procedural kind of logistical thing. I forgot to add the Verizon wireless tower project. So I'm going to add that as a presentation under 10A. Do you have a second?
Seconded.
Any objections? Great, excellent. Any other amendments to the agenda from commissioners? Commissioner Galvin?
Yeah, so on the agenda, I have a settlement agreement that is proposed. We have not reached a settlement agreement with the family tree. So I'd like to propose that as a protest for that particular license at this time. And hopefully that'll help start the process. So just a minor change. I think I put that in the email, that if that wasn't the case, if I didn't have a settlement agreement yet, that would be moving forward. But that's for the action agenda.
Okay, great. So Commissioner, okay, great. This is just essentially, it was listed as an action, so your action is a protest. Great.
Yes.
So
Thank you.
Thank you for the note. I think we can move forward. Any other amendments to the agenda? Great, with none noted, we will move on to the next item of the agenda, which is approval of the minutes. Commissioner Bishop Henchman.
Just a procedural point, Madam Chair, we have to vote to approve the agenda.
Oh, sorry, okay. Let's vote to approve the agenda. I'm gonna do this. I don't have to do a roll call vote with this.
No. If you can call for objection. If there's no objection, it's adopted.
Okay, great. Any objections to the approval of this agenda? With none noted, now the agenda is approved, and we shall move on to item number 3, approval of the minutes.
Yes, thank you. I circulated minutes for our October 21st meeting and asked for amendments or comments and received none. And unless anybody has any now, I will move to adopt the minutes as circulated.
Second.
Great. Any objections? All right, with none noted, the meeting minutes have been approved. Item 4, officer reports and commissioner announcements. Commissioner Hurst was not able to join today, but he did send an update. So I will deliver that as the treasurer's report. The beginning and end balance for October for the ANC 5F account was $33,688. And also that he noted that the ANC 5F Q4 QFR, which is basically a financial report that we have to submit, was submitted in a timely manner. Any other commissioners wanting to give announcements at this time? All right, with none noted, let's go ahead and move forward with announcements from representatives from elected officials. So we have a kind of standing item to have updates from our council member's office and also for the mayor's office of community relations. So let's see if Mr. Black is here. Don't see him. So Sam Bonner from Councilmember Parker's office is here. So you are now recognized. We are making you a co-host now.
Awesome. Hey, everyone. I'm Sam with Councilmember Parker's office, and I'm going to look at my notes from the weekly newsletter that we send out, which is a great resource, which has everything that the council member's been up to, and also what is going on in council, and also opportunities, resources, deadlines, that kind of. So you can go to ward5.us/newsletter to sign up, or /news to see the most recent one. So the big thing is that we're in the last, couple months of the council period. So it's a 2-year period. So if we want to get anything passed, or you want to get a hearing, this is kind of the time to do it, or else it kind of has to restart. Any bill has to be reintroduced and restarted again next year. And to that end, next year, obviously, there's going to be a lot of changes on the national level. We don't really know how much they're going to interfere with our local politics, but it certainly could happen. But that doesn't mean that our local politics doesn't matter, and it shouldn't. We can kind of give up on it. In fact, it matters even more so. And people should start to think about next year's budget process, which the performance oversight session starts in January and February. And that's when any agency will have a hearing in the relevant committee. So more to come on that when we have the details. We don't even know really who is going to have what committee next year. There might be a shakeup. I haven't been as involved in those conversations as you might guess. So that's the big thing. And I think another thing from the council member is that he's been the chair now for a couple of weeks, maybe a month, of the subcommittee on libraries and youth affairs. So we have the council member Parker as is the chair of oversight over DYRS, which is the youth jail, and the and libraries. So we actually had a roundtable with government witnesses today. The first one about DYRS, going over some of the really worrying statistics and issues that are happening with youth under our care as a city. And if we're trying to, reduce crime, if we're trying to make sure that they're not doing things that are antisocial and dangerous and so many other things, we really want to be making sure that when they are being detained, that we're actually rehabilitating them. DYRS means Department of Youth Rehabilitation Services. So there's a lot of issues in terms of he's kind of outlaid some of the things he wants to focus on. Oh, I lost it here. But essentially on like the staffing, what kind of oversight we're doing. Sorry, I'm just talking here. Let me actually find it. Okay, overall agency structure and staffing, case management and preparations for commitment and reentry, quality assurance, staff onboarding, services to the youth while they're actually there, oversight of community-based and out-of-state placements, and also challenges coordinating or interfacing with other agencies such as DPH, Child and Family Services, and the Family Court Services Division of the courts. So more to come, and there is a public witness roundtable that anyone can sign up to testify for this Friday. So I encourage you to go to dccouncil.gov, go to hearings and hearings management system if you want to testify about the oversight or just questions or ideas. It's a good chance to get in front of the council member and give your 3-minute testimony. So encourage folks to get involved and make use of the hearings that exist. Okay, going back to kind of more on the ground community level stuff, we are doing a big turkey giveaway. It is a very complex, different pieces going on at the same time. So all of the ones that have to reserve have been already reserved and booked, and we're going to be giving them away on Wednesday. We're also going to be doing pop-ups throughout the community, including at Edgewood Commons at the Senior Center, at 635 Edgewood. That is going to be essentially a raffle. Luckily, there's another program the building's putting on at the same time around 11 or 11:30 noon. But if you get there at 11 to start getting tickets for the raffle, and then around 11:30 we're going to be doing the raffle, be giving away a small amount of turkeys for folks who were there. So encourage folks to go there. The other big thing that would want to flag here, I know Commissioner Bishop Hentzman is doing some advocacy around some of the bus stops that they're removing in the revital or kind of the Better Bus Network redesign. It is a full redesign of the whole system, so there's a lot of changes. I know we've kind of rehashed or we've hashed through a lot of them in the past, but the big update was they've removed some stops that were like too close together and weren't exactly, just kind of slowing down the route. And so some of them have been removed for good reason, but there's been a few we've been concerned about, including the one at Todd Place and 4th. So we're going to be advocating to WMATA about this and other changes that we don't think are good to be removing those because it is so close to a senior building. And the closest ones are a couple 100 feet beyond the 600 feet that WMATA said was the gold standard. I would say there is also a NOI DDOT for the 1500 block of Eckington Place. Installation of government only parking. So if you want to leave a comment, that comment period closes on December 9th. Big news is ERAP, the Emergency Rental Assistance Program, reopens on November 20th. Instead of doing quarterly, they're saying they're just going to leave it open until it's gone. So I don't know how that's going to go. There's definitely been a lot of controversy and frustration with the whole process and with how ERAP has affected the rest of the housing system. But if you are in need of assistance, if you are behind on rent, please go to erap.dhs.dc.gov and apply on November 20th. That's, I believe, this Wednesday at noon. So I hope that is able to meet the need. Street cleaning is, leaf litter collection is still ongoing. They should be moving into section C, which is, well, I guess 5F straddles B and C. But you can go on my DPW on the website and see an interactive map of which places they've been to already. If you want to get DPR Ward 5 construction updates, including at Harry Thomas Rec, which we know we did have a recent meeting on, but if you want to kind of ask more pointed questions or get in front of some of the decision makers, DPR is doing a meeting for Ward 5 Park and Recreation Capital Projects such as that on November 25th at 6:30 on Zoom. And again, any of this you can see in our most recent newsletter, ward5.us/news. And please subscribe so you can get it every Friday. Finally, the main thing I want to kind of flag also, this is Ward 5 is we're doing a senior advisory committee meeting again, December 4th. And that'll be at Model Cities Senior Wellness Center, 1901 Evard Street. That's Wednesday, December 4th at 10 a.m. And you can reach out to Oliver in our office. But happy to answer any questions about anything I talked about or anything else that might have come up. And yeah.
Great. Thank you so much, Sam. I'll first go to commissioners with questions and then open up to anyone in attendance if you'd like to ask Sam a question. Commissioner Bishop Henchman, I see your hand.
Hi, Sam, this happened today, so I just want to make sure it's on your radar. We got an updated NOI from DDOT on North Capitol and Rhode Island. I haven't even looked at it yet because it just came out today. So, but I think our deadline is by end of year to act on it. But an FYI that that's out, and I at least would certainly love your thoughts and the council members' thoughts as we look at that and decide how to respond to DDOT on that.
Yes, and in fact, I was planning to look on it. I got lost in 3 other things. So, because this is relevant for both of my meetings tonight, because it's right on the line between 5E and F. But yeah, we shall see what it is. But I'm actually going to look at it right now. Are there any other questions? And I can kind of look this over just to give a high-level sense of it.
When I meant your thoughts, I didn't mean instant thoughts right now. Please, we have time.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay, good.
At some point.
All right. Any other commissioner questions, comments? Cool. I'll open it up to the public. Does anyone have a question for Sam or the council member's office? Don't see any takers in person. We'll give everyone a minute. Great. Thank you so much, Sam, and thank you for your advocacy, and have fun at your next meeting.
Please let me know if there's any other highlights or things I need to activate on or flag moving forward. Because yeah, I do have to hop to Bloomingdale, although I think I'll probably wait on for the next 15 or so minutes before I do.
Fantastic. Okay, great. Thanks so much, Sam. So the next item on our agenda is public comment. Just for those of you who are new to ANC 5F meetings, just wanted to kind of add a procedural note. We do have a section for public comment. And then we also have a procedural item that we use called a consent agenda, which is quite robust. The slate on the consent agenda is pretty robust this evening. Following public comment, we'll have presentations relating to agenda items that are either on the consent agenda or on the action agenda. But essentially the consent agenda is things that we think that because the commissioners have pre-discussed it, that there is enough alignment that the items will most likely pass. We will not necessarily discuss them because we've kind of discussed them prior to the meeting. So just to kind of speed things along so that we're not here for 4 hours, just to kind of wanted to kind of describe what the consent agenda is. With that said, let's go to public comment. We've allotted 10 minutes, up to 2 minutes per speaker. Would anyone like to go first? All right, we see a hand. If you're online, please use the raise hand feature. If you're in person, please physically raise your hand and we'll recognize you. First hand we see is Jessica. We have unmuted you.
Hi, would this be the appropriate time to express concerns about the potential cannabis shop, or would you like to wait until we get to that section?
So that's part of the action agenda item section, and we should have a presentation from the licensee following this section. So if you want to hold your comments until then, and perhaps direct questions to the presenter if you would like, that might be a appropriate section.
Okay, that's great. I know I'm joined here by several neighbors, and our call to action for the ANC is to consider protesting this establishment. So yeah, we just want to make sure our voices are heard. So we'll wait for the presentation and then we'd love to have public comment.
All right, great, excellent. Any other takers? Would anyone like to speak at this time?
Oh, I'll just say that, do I need to come up?
Just close enough for the microphone.
Yeah, just close enough
Yeah.
for the microphone.
Oh, these are microphones. Oh,
Yes,
they're
they
cool.
are.
And there are some of us here in the room too, from Edgewood, so.
Great. All right, Felicia, we see your hand. We'll recognize you.
Hello, my name's Talisha Taylor and I work at Shalom House, the residence building for so others might eat at the corner of T and 4th, near the bus stop. And I just wanted to share that about half of our residents, 46 people, have signed a petition asking that those 2 bus stops not be removed.
Amazing. Thank you for the update. And Sam, if you're still on the line, that's I think worth noting for you as well. I say into the ether. I'm sure you've heard me. Thank you. That is really a great organizing, and Commissioner Bishop Henchman did a really great job in reaching out to a variety of agencies and stakeholders to kind of push this along. So we're hopeful that that bus stop remains. But we will also, if you don't already have Sam's email, I think we may be on an email chain already, but if you wouldn't mind sending that petition with the signatures, Talisha, to Sam Bonner from the council member's office, that would be really amazing. Okay, great. Any other takers? Give it a minute. All right, let us move on to the next item on the agenda. So the next item on the agenda is presentations relating to agenda items. So I have one item there, which is a presentation from Roger Davis from the Family Tree Medical Cannabis Retailer at 2316 4th Street Northeast. The ABRA license is 127855. Is Roger in the room on the internet? Oh, hi.
Commissioner Anderson, I believe there is a representative for Mr. Davis. Erica is on the line, if I'm not mistaken. If we can elevate Erica Massey, I believe.
Perfect. We see Erica, and we are making Erica a co-host now.
Hello, we're actually here together today. I'm Erica Massey, and this is Roger Davis.
Great. Thanks for joining.
How y'all doing?
Good, how are you?
Great.
Yeah, you all have 10 minutes for your presentation, and then we'll have Q&A following.
Okay. Yeah, so as I mentioned, this is Roger Davis. He's the owner of the Family Tree LLC, which is a local startup and minority-owned family business in the District of Columbia. In terms of the Family Tree, obviously for today's meeting and the meeting that took place, I believe, a week or two ago, Family Tree is looking to be committed to supporting and fostering growth, the Ward 5 community, as well as seeing, a significant potential for collaboration with the ANC 5 board, its members, but also the community as a whole. And I would say 2 weeks ago, I gave a background about the Family Tree, and I want to take this time to do that today. But just
Erica, sorry, it's just a little bit hard to hear you. If you wouldn't mind, maybe
yeah,
that's better actually. Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. So for background, on March 13th, 2024, ABCA reviewed and approved the Family Tree LLC social equity application for a conditional license. On October 9th, the Family Tree was approved for a standard retail medical cannabis license with a delivery endorsement, and that was requested at 2316 4th Street Northeast, and that was also resulted in a board approval of placard. As far as the business, the Family Tree LLC will provide approved and tested medical cannabis flowers, concentrates, and edible products for in-store purchase, as well as home delivery to registered patients in Washington, D.C. Currently, the proposed hours of operation are Monday to Sunday, 9 a to 11 p, but definitely negotiable. As mentioned, the Family Tree is a startup company. So in terms of operations and security, the Family Tree plans to have signs posted throughout the store that state customers must be 18 years of age or older to purchase medical cannabis. And all customers must provide a state ID and medical cannabis card issued by ABCA. Now, in addition, Family Tree also plans to abide by all rules and regulations established by ABCA, including advertisements forbidding the display of medical cannabis related advertising on the exterior of any window or door, and also the illumination of any advertising that would be visible from outside the facility. As far as the company, there are plans to have adequate security camera coverage 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, an alarm installed and monitored by a professional licensed company, lighting outside the premises, an employee security plan with training, armed security guards, that will be registered with the Department of Licensing and Consumer Protection, and also MPD's Security Officers Measurement Branch. In addition, all employees are required to be registered with ABCA and be at least 21 years of age. And we also plan to have a minimum of 2 employees working during operating hours with at least 1 manager. But as far as the company and where the company stands now, currently Family Tree is in the early stages of operation. Right now, the company is seeking assistance from a local architect to develop plans to submit for permits, and also working with the construction team on the retail space and also build out. So obviously, for today, the company is looking to develop relationships with Ward 5 and answer any questions or concerns the community may have.
All right, thank you so much. We'll move to Q&A period. I will go to commissioners first, but Commissioner Galvin, I'll go to you first actually, just to give context and also perhaps an update from our committee to see if there's any relevant findings, discussions there.
Okay.
Yeah, sure. So thanks so much for joining Mr. Davis and Ms. Massey. So they did present, Erica presented at the last alcohol licensing committee meeting and discussed most of what she just outlined about and a little bit more about the business itself. I did let her know about the settlement agreement that was done for the warehouse and that was approved by ANC 5F and asked to, take a look at it and kind of evaluate what she and Mr. Davis would consider for a potential settlement agreement. But I also indicated that, there's been some feedback from a lot of folks in the neighborhood, and I wanted to give that opportunity. So as far as that is concerned, that is where I have not heard, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Davis or Ms. Massey, but I had not heard any more recent updates from them with regards to where that settlement agreement stands, if that's something that is interest.
Great. Okay, thank you, Commissioner Galvin. I have a quick question, I think, directed to the applicant. I just wanted to see if there were any initial reactions to the settlement agreement, if there are any particular points that were that you had specific issues with.
I actually looked at the agenda. I think it was emailed to you yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
When I looked at this, I didn't see any issues with what was outlined. No.
Okay.
I had a chance to look at it, but I'll show it to you.
Okay, got it. So there weren't any specific issues with the settlement agreement. It's just that there was an agreement reached before the meeting. Is that where we're at, Commissioner Galvin?
So I mean, I haven't heard anything at all since the alcohol licensing committee. So I wasn't sure if there was interest. I think this particular case is a little different than the warehouse, just based on where it is located and kind of its proximity to kind of a denser residential area and space and some of the challenges that are currently happening, at that, 4th and Adams and 4th and Bryant Street area that's on a regular basis, which we discussed at length in some of the other alcohol licensing discussions. So we were just kind of, waiting to see what feedback was there. And I wanted to hear back from the public because I've definitely heard a lot of feedback from folks.
Okay, great. With that noted, well, I see Commissioner Bishop Henchman's hand. Go to him next.
Thank you. And thank you for joining us this evening. My question was the same as Commissioner Anderson's. So it's good to know that, maybe there's a meeting of the minds that will happen. We have a lot of people on tonight, so I just wanted to note that, ultimately ABCA decides this license. We give a recommendation to them. And obviously we have the power to protest or to enter into a settlement agreement or to, or do nothing. I feel like I've given this speech a lot of times over the last 2 years. If we are to protest, we have to give reasons as outlined in the law for it. So just, for all the members of the public who are planning on speaking on this item, it's for us to protest and for the protest to hold, it needs to be more than we don't want a marijuana retailer in our neighborhood. It needs to be something about noise, something about odor, something about crime, something about and there's a long list of things that can be covered in that. But I wanted to note that because and the draft settlement agreement, which our ICL committee worked on, and as Commissioner Galvin noted, we used for a recent cannabis license last month. it attempts to address a lot of those things. So, you know, to the extent any members of the public want to speak on this item, it's helpful for me at least to talk about like what specific thing you're concerned about so that maybe we can try to tailor the settlement agreement to address it, you know, if that's even possible. So, you know, without giving away, you know, how I'm ultimately going to vote on that, that'll be helpful for me as we go into public comment on this item. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Bishop Henchman. And just to add to that, according to ABGA, kind of to add to what Commissioner Bishop Henchman said, it does need to have a appropriateness standard, which is what they refer to. And the three that they list out are the effect of the establishment on real property values, the effect of the establishment on peace, order, and quiet, including noise and litter provisions, and third, the effect of the establishment upon residential parking needs and vehicular and pedestrian safety. So those are the three that ABGA have outlined. So anytime we enter a protest, we don't have to necessarily go into more detail than that, but essentially we have to enter a protest under one of those three, the three items. With that noted, I know that there are a lot of people who would like to speak on this issue, and I think hopefully this is also a Q&A period with the applicant. So we will go ahead, let's go back to Jessica, and then we'll kind of go in the order of hands that we see.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. Sorry. I just want to come off mute. Thank you all. Thank you, commissioners, and thank you, Ms. Massey, and your client. And while I appreciate the fact that small businesses are bedrock to Washington, D.C. and our economy, I am expressing, and I have several neighbors on this call with me, real concern over this establishment, specifically as it relates to crime and noise. There are several cannabis shops within, if not hundreds of feet, maybe 1,000 feet from this location. There's one on Rhode Island. There's two on Rhode Island, one just half a block up and another one other block away. This corridor specifically between Rhode Island and Bryant, Channing, Douglas, Evarts, Edgewood, this corridor has a big problem with crime, loitering, trash, noise. We've got several liquor stores right in a row. One of the liquor stores is open, the latest in the city, and we have a lot of known illegal illicit drug operations happening, specifically on Adams Street that parlays down to these liquor stores. In terms of congruency with the neighborhood, you know, I think several of my neighbors and I all agree that this is not congruent in the direction of where this neighborhood would like to be heading. And again, I appreciate so much of small businesses and how necessary they are. But right now, just because of the amount of cannabis shops, alcohol shops within this incredibly small radius and the historic precedent of crime and noise and loitering and trash, I just don't think this would be a positive impact to the neighborhood. But I'll yield back to the commissioner. Thank you. Oh, before that, I do want to draw attention to Commissioner Galvin. My neighbors and myself did send you a letter listing out several reasons. So I'd want to draw your attention to that. And if you could also circulate that with your other commissioners, we'd be very, very grateful. Thank you.
All right. I see hands online. I just want to kind of turn to folks in public if you'd like to speak.
Oh, yeah, sure. I'll go first.
And if you can identify yourself in your neighborhood generally,
Yeah,
like that's helps we get it in the minutes.
I am Joseph Crockett. I live on Bryant Street in Edgewood. I agree with what I think her name was Jennifer said. Jessica, sorry. My concern is about crime. You know, there was not more than a year ago, there was 2 murders in front of that building. There's a lot of drug traffic that happens right on that block. I'm really concerned that adding more cannabis to that block is going to be really problematic for the crime. That's what I would like to say.
You don't have to get up, but we can repeat if you don't mind identifying yourself.
Brown, I'm from Bryant Street also. And what I'm trying to say, if they put that shop there, I'll give them 2 weeks and I guarantee they'll come through the roof. Because across the street is Section 8 and everybody in there is on drugs. So what you're doing is giving them an invitation to come in. So I don't think it need to be there. Put it somewhere else. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go back to hands that we see online, and just happy to hear comments. Just also wanted to just remind everyone that the applicants are online if there are questions that we'd like to direct to them. But let's continue with comments. Caroline, we will recognize you now.
Hi, everyone. I'm Caroline O'Shea. I live in Eckington, but just across Rhode Island Avenue from this location, and actually even closer to the location that just recently had a settlement agreement signed, the warehouse. And I just wanted to ask the applicants. I mean, we were very appreciative, I was, of the warehouse group's responsiveness to the settlement agreement process, their contributions to that, bringing a lot of ideas to that. So I wanted to ask generally about their lack of responsiveness to the settlement agreement thus far, but also specifically to, I'm looking at the draft settlement agreement that specifically says not later than 10 p.m. operating hours. And in your presentation, Ms. Massey, I think you had said 11. So I just wanted to see your willingness on that. And I would add as a comment that I do agree that there is a lot of traffic very late night on that block that can be of a concern. So the hours seem like an important component of that. Thank you.
Great. Ms. Massey, would you or your client like to respond?
No, I can respond because I was on the call 2 weeks ago. I think Mr. Galvin, you were supposed to email that to me when I provided my email, but you did not. Now, I did receive an update about the agenda last night, which I did see the settlement agreement included, which I thought we were going to discuss possibly today or after. But yeah, I believe you and I forgot her name. Was it Melissa Coughlin, I believe? Yeah, I believe you guys were supposed to email that to me.
Commissioner Galvin?
I apologize if that was the case, but I had thought I had mentioned in that meeting that the settlement agreement for the warehouse was on our public website, ANC5F, and was at the resolution at the bottom, which was clearly labeled. And I thought that you were going to look at that because it's already available and there wouldn't be a lot of differences that was already. So I apologize if I misinterpreted that and I was supposed to send that to you, but I thought you were going to go directly to that to see all of the details on it.
Yeah, no worries. I actually did read over it, but I thought that you were going to send something more revised with the correct information.
The only difference, the only change would have been the name of your establishment versus
a couple of things on there. The time and business hours from what I saw on the agenda.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, but it does sound like in general that there is, in general, Ms. Massey, you had said earlier that there was general agreement to kind of what had been proposed, correct? But it sounds like maybe into specifics. And as I think Caroline was a previous neighbor who had spoken regarding the business hours, that's one specific issue. If the adjustment was, there was a settlement agreement that was, I guess I'll frame the question this way. Would the family tree be open to adjusting the hours to close at 10 p.m.?
Yeah, we can close at 10. That's not a problem.
Okay, great. That's helpful to know. I think if, since the applicant is here and they've seen the settlement agreement that's been posted on our website, I think if we can kind of, since it seems like they're open to what's been proposed, perhaps we can kind of continue to include that in the conversation. Kish, I see your hand. We'll recognize you now.
Hi, hello everybody. I'm Kish Resek, and I feel comfortable saying I'm probably the person who lives the closest to the proposed shop. My backyard opens out onto 4th Street, and so I can see the location from my backyard. Moreover, I can hear things that happen at the location from my backyard. So I would like to echo some of the sentiments that Jessica and Joe in the room there with you at the ANC meeting mentioned. So first of all, there are 2 businesses nearby that serve this ANC community already in this capacity. So there's already an unnecessary density of cannabis businesses in this neighborhood. I believe there's a young woman in the room there with you that did mention that across the street from the proposed location, there are perhaps people who will just be invited to, her word is invited to come into the shop. But truth be told, what it sounds like after hearing her talk about it is it's a little bit of exploitation of people who live in the neighborhood. But moving back to my points here, the second thing I want to bring up here is ongoing crime. So this is going to attract drug users, increase loitering. It's going to encourage unwanted activities, whether it's till 10 p.m. or 11 p.m. at night. And this is going to contribute to the fear that many of our neighbors have of ongoing violent crime. I believe it was Joe Crockett in the room there who mentioned that we actually had two of our community members murdered right on the spot of the proposed location, December 12th of 2023 last year. It's still reverberating in our community to this day. Moreover, you mentioned that peace and order is one of the areas under which we can file our protest. Well, peace and order will be disturbed with that increased late night traffic, with the proposed operating hours, with any agreement to even reduce proposed operating hours to 9 p.m. to 8 p.m. Those noises, they're unwelcome, all of them. The late night traffic, it's unwelcome. Rowdy noise, also unwelcome. Those are all disturbances to the neighborhood peace, to peace of the families that live in this community. Moreover, the hours that are proposed and even hours that could be truncated, those are extending well beyond the accepted quiet time in our residential, to use Mark's word, in our residential community. That's disruptive to all of those who reside here. I will say that after dark, I can tell you from my house, I know there are drug sales and pervasive drug use, and the well-being of my children and the children in this community is at stake. Okay, the other area that we are allowed to file a protest under, you mentioned it's parking or pedestrian safety. I want to talk a bit about pedestrian safety. So you may or may not know this, Ms. Massey and Roger, Mr. Roger, the neighborhood here, this stretch that we're talking about, it does have 2 liquor stores, but it also has a daycare. It's called Emergent Prep Academy. It services infants as young as 12 weeks old to school-age children to about 5 years old. And so this location disregards the presence of families and young children in our community. Moreover, the pedestrian traffic that passes by that very proposed location is children, little children, influential children, the next generation of young Washingtonians. Those include my children and the children of many of the neighbors on this call and in this community. The teachers every single day walk children by that stretch from Adams, where the daycare is located, all the way up to the park at the Edgewood Rec Center. They walk right in front of that shop every single day. The drug users and the drugs sold by the business are not going to create an environment in alignment with the nurturing, family-friendly atmosphere that our community has been working so hard to maintain. All right, last point here. I just want to talk a bit about the first item, which was the real property values. Someone mentioned that was the other area that we are allowed to file the protest under. Well, I will say, in terms of property, in terms of value, in terms of economic development, the presence of this business actually discourages positive economic development, which for me as a 25-year resident of the District of Columbia is very important to me. I want to see the district thrive economically. It is very important to me as a person who works here, who lives here, who does not work or live in Maryland, who does not work or live in Virginia. It's DC for me, okay? And I'm telling you that this business does not foster diverse and family-friendly economic growth. A cannabis dispensary will discourage businesses that are focused on community integrity from setting up storefronts where we live. And we see that day in and day out because we don't have the things that we need. We don't have a grocery store. We don't have a bookstore. We don't have a coffee shop, a fitness center. We don't have establishments contributing to a wholesome, family-friendly environment. And this business will discourage that. I guarantee it. It will undermine the vision that our neighbors, all of us on this call, have for our neighborhood moving forward. We're all in this for the long haul, and this is not the vision we have for our community. Full stop. Thank you for your time. I yield back to everybody else.
All right, so we see some additional hands, so we will go to the next one that we saw. I think, was that Bill? All right, Bill, you're recognized.
Yes, can you hear me all right?
You can.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening. I echo everybody's comments so far, especially Keish and Jess. I've been in the neighborhood for about 10 years now. In the house, I live on Bryant Street. We share our backyard goes into the alley. I will stress that, I mean, all of the neighbors have considerable concerns about crime, enhanced loitering, property values, children's safety. I now have 2 young kids, and I frequently worry about them going in the backyard. The only thing I'll add to Keisha's and Jess's very eloquent protest really is that the alley that this proposed business goes up against, my backyard alley, is also a dilapidated dumping ground. There's a dilapidated shed in the back that's, whose ownership maintenance is unclear. It's literally falling apart. It's a rat's nest, a cat den. Our alley is frequent, like weekly basis, just is a dumping ground for discarded furniture, office furniture, all kinds of just random trash is just thrown about. There's illegal parking. And the only thing I will add is that our neighborhood collectively has come a long way in the 10 years that I've been here in the scene. And I do think that while I commend and encourage small businesses, just like everyone here, I do think that the nature of this business, especially the density in this 2-3 square block area of the city, is going to continue attracting a negative element. And with that comes increased illicit activity and crime. I mean, everybody's talking about the double homicide from December of last year, but there was a likely homicide just a couple weeks ago up the street. I mean, everyone heard the gunshots. And then the one final, I guess it's really just a question to the proposed business owner. I'm given the density and the business demographic already of having 2-3 cannabis shops in a couple block radius, plus all the liquor stores here. I'm curious how you found this location, or why you're considering putting your business in a location that has already built-in competition. Over. Appreciate the time. Thank you.
I'm actually from this area. I've been living here for over 25 years. My family actually bought a house over here in 2000. Well, actually 1999. So I'm actually from the area. I live in walking distance from the area, in the store. So I didn't find the area. I actually grew up in this area. I believe crime is down in the area. I hear a lot of people talk about crime, this, that, and the third, but crime is actually down in our area, like tremendously. I'm not scared at all. I actually grew up in this neighborhood. I've been living here I'm 40 years old. I'm actually just turned 41. I'm a Washingtonian at 41 years old. So, I mean, I don't even see all the crime that they talking about. I hear about the murders that go on, but it has nothing to do with, but I'm gonna listen though.
All right, great, thank you. Thank you for being present during this. I see Christina Shepard is the next hand.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you now.
Got it. Thank you. Hi, I also live I live one house down from Phil and a couple houses down from Keish. My backyard also looks into the alley. So I am also protesting. There's not really much to say other than what Kish and Phil already said. I echo the fact that I love small business. I work for a very small business in DC. I know it's tough, but I also, I don't see this as being beneficial to the neighborhood. And it really, I know I understand that, you know, it feels to some people like crime is going down, but it's still there. It's still happening. There are still murders happening. They're happening in our neighborhood. There are still shootings. There are still shootings happening in our neighborhood. So like crime is definitely there. It's definitely happening. As far as looking at the effect on the neighborhood itself, you know, we're worried, especially being myself being so close. We're worried about the smoke. We're worried about the noise. We're worried about the traffic. You know, we're again worried about the crime. So I just like, again, appreciate your efforts to open up a small business, but I feel like neighborhood is not the best place for it. And I know that you said, was there any other, like, I'm just curious, like, were there any other reasons besides the fact that you say, you know, that you live in the neighborhood and that you've lived in the neighborhood? Yeah, you grew up here. Is there any other reasons why because there's a lot of, you know, and the only reason why I say this, because we have, like, I feel like that this neighborhood is saturated already. Like, I don't think it would even be a good business decision to open something like that up here because of all the other places in the neighborhood. So I'm wondering, like, have you looked at other places where the neighborhood isn't so saturated, and why besides, you know, that you lived here, is there any particular reason why this place in particular is on the list? And have you looked at any other places?
Right. Well, Christina, well, number one, in the beginning, I explained that we got approved for a conditional medical cannabis application or license, excuse me, in March of this year. So with a conditional application or license, we have up until a year to find a location. Now that's based off of us finding a location that is not within 300 feet of another, I believe it's a daycare, and 400 feet of another medical cannabis retail location. Now, again, this is medical, this is not recreational. And then also you mentioned smoke. No one can consume medical cannabis in a licensed retail location approved by ABCA.
And
Okay.
also, we're not a bunch of hoodlums. We're not going to be making a bunch of noise and all of that stuff. This is a business. We know how to conduct ourselves as human beings.
Yeah, then also too, like I know someone did mention like a noise level or noise ordinance. I mean, it's not a nightclub. We're not trying to, you know, play loud music. It's really going to be more so of a relaxed environment. But again, back to like the smoke that you had mentioned. Yeah, we only applied for a delivery endorsement. We didn't apply for a summer garden, and we also, which I believe Mr. Gavin was actually inside of the settlement agreement you mentioned, that I know we did not apply for. And I think it was another endorsement, which was what was the other endorsement? It was the summer garden and
The previous applicant, I think, also had like a culinary demonstration endorsement.
Yeah,
And also, my neighborhood actually wants this store. My neighborhood needs medical marijuana. People in my neighborhood need edibles. People need that stuff to help them sleep. People need that. They don't need to have to travel across town to go get their marijuana product. Marijuana is for medical use. As much as much as some people don't like it, people actually need it. So, I mean, our neighborhood wants it. They ask us for it.
And it might be just different demographics and how certain people may feel, obviously. But I feel like we spoke to enough people that we personally know who are interested in this type of facility. I do understand the concern, don't get me wrong, the concern for people, you know, who do live nearby. I actually went around where the alley is in Park, and I do see how visible the homes are over there. So I definitely understand that.
Right. Thank you so much. I'm going to go to Commissioner Galvin first, and then to Paige. So Commissioner Galvin.
You are not coming through, Commissioner Galvin.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, I'll try to speak up a little bit. And again, I apologize, I'm not there in person to fix it.
It's a little hard to hear you, Mark.
Yeah.
Microphone's not coming through.
We can't hear you.
Oh, he says he'll.
Oh, you'll come back. Okay, great. Paige, Lieberman, Lieberman. Yes, we recognize you.
Hi, yeah, thank you. So I also live within 1 block of the proposed location. I just want to highlight a few things. So one thing just from the top, I think you mentioned that this kind of business cannot operate within 300 feet of a daycare facility. Is that correct?
It is, yes.
Okay, because there's the Merchant Prep Academy that's 282 feet away.
Yeah, and I actually discussed that with Mr. Galvin, and prior to us even getting approved and placard at the location, we're required to obtain a GIS map from ABCA, outlining the proximity of all the medical cannabis retailers that may be near, as well as daycares, and it's not within 300 feet.
Okay. So if I could make a couple other points just for the record. So I guess it depends probably where you're just determining where the property line is and what part you're using. The entrance to the facility, because the traffic is really not safe right at 4th and Rhode Island, children and families do enter that building at 4th and Adams. Maybe I wonder if it makes any difference to ABCA that this is where children actually are on a daily basis. As Keith mentioned, they also are regularly walking past the business, as are students from Inspired Teaching School and Langley Elementary School and DC Prep Elementary School, and several other schools within the area, because there is a bus stop right there. And of course, children in DC use buses and metros to get to and from school. Also, I know there was a point about people in the neighborhood needing access to marijuana. I fully understand that. I use marijuana myself. I'm not against this. The thing is, there are several places within walking distance, if not driving. Even if you have mobility issues, those are within walking distance to get this kind of service. And they're not directly next to a school or a daycare. You also talked about being the neighborhood being safer. And maybe I'm sure you can find a point in the history of DC in every neighborhood where crime has been higher. But we're talking about the last couple years in particular. There's been serious issues in Edgewood in general, and in this block in particular. There are significant crime issues. There have been several murders, several more attempted murders, several illegal drug transactions, several documented assaults, public intoxication, public defecation, loitering. Some of these have been reported, some of them are not, because by the time you call the police here, they're like, yeah, it's just something that happens here. I think if you talk with the police, they will tell you the truth about what the crimes are in this neighborhood. There's also, you mentioned littering being a grounds for disapproving this application. I personally fill a trash bag within this block and the next one where I live every single week with trash. And I know 2 more neighbors who do the same thing. That's only going to increase. You also talked about noise and loitering issues. We understand that inside the building, it's not loud, but it's not about the operation of the building. It's about bringing more customers to the neighborhood that are going to then be leaving and loitering and leaving trash, causing safety issues with pedestrians and all the children who are there. I don't want to give the impression that this neighborhood is a lost cause. There are so many residents working hard to improve the neighborhood. I see drug deals every day. I see issues every day. I don't call the police, it's fine. But when you're talking about someone who is going to a business that's going to come in and exacerbate all of these issues and make it so much harder for the people here to fight, that's something that's worth us fighting for. The neighbors who, many who are on this call, I know others as well, and we'd be happy to come in person or sign a petition, anything that you need. We fully protest this application, and it has nothing to do with the individuals involved. I heard the applicant reference something implying that this was a racist opposition. That's not it at all. We're talking about the safety of our families and our children.
Yeah, I
And
don't
this
think
is
he said anything
not going to
about
hurt.
anything being racist. I don't know who said that.
Yeah, I just want to, I don't think that was mentioned, but I also want to just come in a point of order here. Kind of been playing a little fast and loose with our procedural rules. I think we had a lot of 10 minutes of Q&A. We've surpassed that. I'm just gonna go to my fellow commissioners. Would anyone like to propose a motion to extend the time on this item?
Yeah,
Okay, I will.
yeah.
I'd like to propose continuing time on this item for 10 minutes. Is there a second?
Second, please. Thank you.
Any objections? Great. I have kind of a point, and I will direct this to Commissioner Galvan, since I think you've been engaged mostly in these discussions. Considering that this business is not in operation yet, could you talk me through kind of what the major, since we have recently reached a settlement agreement with another cannabis related business that is in close proximity, what is the substantial kind of operational differences between this business and like this applicant and the applicant from the warehouse? I think just to kind of bring it back to the discussions about the settlement agreements and the licenses, similarly to how we've been talking about alcohol licenses, I think we have, this has come up in previous discussions with regards to alcohol licenses of kind of having parity, right? If the operations are operating with, like in a similar model that have been kind of abiding by kind of similar rules. I think this is a little different because the business is not open yet, but I just wanted to kind of ask that question. It was, what's the substantive difference between this and the warehouse, this applicant and the warehouse?
Yeah, no, that's, I think, you know, can you hear me now? Okay.
Yes, we can hear you
Okay,
great.
thank you. So the substantial difference, I don't think it's as much about how the business is operating with respect to, you know, what they're doing within their own bounds. I think the difference is what the effect this particular location will have on the surrounding area. Does that make sense? So, and when I think about this as the viewpoint of, you know, basically what I was, you know, sworn to do is, you know, in the best interest of the District of Columbia, I think about like the liquor stores, for example. There's 5 or 6 liquor stores within a 1-block radius. It's clearly there's plenty of competition, but it's also excessive, and there's lots of problems that are associated with those liquor stores in that area, and especially the ones that are open late, which is why we've had such a challenge, you know, in some of our commission meetings with some of the feedback that we've heard. And so, you know, there's a ton of extra access to cannabis at other unlicensed. There are other unlicensed ones that are very close, right? Those are, and again, those are different scenarios here. However, the access to marijuana is so prevalent in the city, and it's so easy to get to that it is abused, in my personal opinion. And when I say that, I mean people are driving high, people are, you know, and so one of the questions I had for, and I want to finish answering your question, Commissioner Anderson, but I think that's in my mind, that's the main difference. It's the location of this and the fact that there are already enough prevalence, and how many do we get to that's considered reasonable, that's within the bounds, that doesn't affect the community in a negative way.
Okay, that's helpful. I think there is kind of the unresolved question of, I think the DC law regarding this says that the cultivation center and it lists out this is different type of businesses shall not locate within any residential district or within 300 feet of a preschool, primary, secondary school, or a recreation center. I think we've the words that have been used to describe emergent prep is a daycare, but I think the intent of preschool daycare kind of, I think, are pretty similar. I think we could argue that. So I think there is a question as to like whether it is located within 282 feet or 300, in which if it is located within 300 feet, it seems like perhaps that would be enough reason for the license to not get approved. So I'm just going to put that out there. I also wanted to kind of give some information. I think we've gone through alcohol license protests quite a bit and described the process. Medical cannabis license protests are a bit newer to DC, and I think APCA is kind of still trying to figure out how that goes about. But from my understanding, based on the information on the APCA website, and I will talk to APCA in the morning to see if this is true, but it doesn't look like there's a party of 5 protests. At least on their website, it says that the who can file a protest is the ANC of the establishment of the proposed location and an ANC located within 600 feet of the establishment of the proposed location. So I did want to kind of throw that out there as information. Okay, I'm going to go, I see 2 more hands. Commissioner Bishop Henchman, I saw yours first.
Just a quick question for anybody who has the answer. What's the protest deadline on this application?
Yeah, absolutely. That is another fair point that I wanted to.
It is December 9.
Yeah,
December 9th.
Which is before our next regularly scheduled ANC 5F meeting of December 18th, I think.
You said December 9th, right?
The protest deadline is,
sorry.
Our meeting is after the protest deadline of the 9th. Our next meeting is December
16th.
16th. Okay, great. I think we've heard from a lot of people, but I'm going to give it one more minute to see if anyone else has any points that they would like to raise.
And I'd like to, if they want to speak again from the applicant, if they want to respond to anything or sum up. Yeah.
I was going to go to them, but a fair point. Commissioner Galvan, actually, I'm going to go to Commissioner Sani first because he's not spoken.
Yeah, and you can wait until you get the floor again, Ms. Massey and Klein. I'm curious to see, because your placard is requesting delivery enhancement, basically. I'd be curious to hear more about how you plan on managing traffic. We've heard from numerous residents that vehicular traffic on that part of 4th is pretty hairy. I walk down that every day. I've seen all kinds of wild driving. Curious to see like what allowances you've made for delivery, like delivery of your product, I guess, is the question. And like, how do you have a loading bay? Are you planning on using street parking? Like
it's a back delivery door to for the delivery driver that we're gonna have a garage set up security wise for them to just come through, shut the garage down, and get our products that way. So it won't even be visible to the alley at all.
Yeah, and then also too, as far as delivery, these are like small portions, or small amounts of medical cannabis. We're not delivering like large amounts of that, because there are stipulations that we would have to follow per APCA, in terms of the amount that we could deliver or distribute to each person by day, week, month, and year. So, and that kind of speaks to, I think, Mr. Galvin, when he mentioned about people abusing cannabis. Again, this is the medical side. These are people who want their products tested, and they want to know where their products are coming from. But at the same time, there are certain requirements that we would have to adhere to. For them to actually visit our location, they would have to provide their ID, their medical cannabis card, and everything is track C to sale. So we would know, like, hey, you already reached your limit. You can't purchase anything today.
Yeah, we don't have a recreational store.
Yeah, it's completely medical.
And we do have business experience, over 10 years business experience. So we know how to secure a business. we know how to, stay safe.
Yeah, and the goal too is not for us to increase crime in the area. Definitely don't want to contribute to that. And we would definitely, or we would love to work with the community on a way to help the area with crime. I mean, that's my big concern, obviously, personally, anywhere in DC. Like with like the teenagers and the increasing crime that I've noticed just, by watching the news, obviously, but we want to help out. We want to work with our nearby business neighbors. We want to work with the women, I forgot their names, but they said they live behind the store. There's actually a tenant who lives above the 2316 4th Street Northeast as well. He actually just you bought her a new door because she said she did not feel secure on that street. So we're not here to obviously, go against anything that the community is saying. We want to help out in any way possible as well.
Thank you. I have a question since you have applied for a delivery endorsement. And I know sometimes that it is hard to anticipate what the business might look like without having been in operation, but every business has a business plan, right? What percentage of your business do you anticipate being delivery versus in-person purchases?
I mean, honestly, this is a complete startup. I think looking at some of the past numbers, from ABCA and what they put out on a monthly basis, I would say maybe 10% or so.
Got it.
That is 10% delivery versus 90% in person?
Exactly, yes.
Got it. Commissioner Galvin, your hand is raised.
Yeah, the one thing, I wanted to ask you both is about how you kind of prevent folks from basically coming to the establishment that are inebriated in any way, and at the same time preventing folks from also leaving that are also under the influence, right? And I think that's part of some of the other concerns that I can see neighbors having, because they're going to get in their car, which is parked right there, and then they're going to drive high. And we see it, and it's everywhere. I see it all the time. I see people smoking weed, drinking in their cars. And that's, I think, what is very concerning from safety for neighbors and children and whatnot. And so how would you kind of prevent that kind of activity from occurring?
I mean, they come in and buy their cannabis marijuana, they can't consume it on property. They're not gonna be able to come into our building and consume and then leave out. They're gonna have to buy their stuff. It's gonna be packaged up, stapled up in a bag, and or in the exit bag that's sealed tight, like smell proof and stuff like that. It's not gonna be advertising to kids. We can't advertise on windows. So even if a kid or a mother do walk past, you're not even gonna know what it is. You're not gonna have smells coming out the building. We're not any consumption on the building at all. So you're not gonna be able to leave.
Got it. Understood. Okay, thank you. That's helpful.
That's why he did not choose a name that was cannabis related. That's why he chose the family tree.
Yeah, it's not even, we're not allowed
to consume on property. I understand.
Like,
okay, thank you.
On bags or anything like that.
Or post deals on the windows or
we
doors.
Can't have nothing.
The most you'll see probably is just signage, but nothing can be illuminated.
It's gonna look more like a dentist's office, and like if I'm hoping we do got a line out the door, but if it is some sort of line, we do have a waiting area. We will have a waiting area inside. We will, control the traffic. I mean, as much as I want to have a Georgetown cupcake line, it's just like, we do got a waiting area though. We're not gonna be having people outside smoking and people coming up intoxicated. We deal with all walks of life in this area. We know how to deal with people. Like, we ain't gonna have people lording outside our store. That's negative. That'll never happen at any location I stay at. But
all right, I'm gonna propose to extend time for just 5 more minutes and then we'll close because we do have other items on the agenda. Are there any objections to extending for 5 minutes? All right, with none noted. I think we've had a couple of questions come through the comment box. Should we?
I think There are no more.
The parking spots, I think this has, that's been answered.
Which one?
Okay. I think there might have been a question regarding, are there parking spots for delivery drivers in the back?
Yeah.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah, okay, great.
Spaces.
Jessica, we recognize you.
Thank you. Actually, that goes to what you were just saying about the parking spots and the garage. I mean, I live on Bryant. I know that alley well. There is no garage back there, and so what it sounds like the applicant is proposing is that they use the alley with very little control over the traffic. They encourage traffic to come off the street, and I believe your property has one allotted spot with no garage. So if you're planning to do deliveries, are you still planning to use that one allotted spot with no garage? Is that your plan as of right now?
The back has a delivery. The back has an entryway, which I'm gonna put a whole garage door and set up in.
So you're planning to build a garage on that one
Not a
parking
garage,
spot?
not a garage door that comes down. There's a few neighbors in your alley that already has one.
Some of the electronic garage.
Yeah, some of the electronic.
Yeah, no, I'm very familiar. I live on the other side. I walk through that alley every day. Yeah. So right now there is no actual way to disclose or disguise the sales as of right now, and you plan on constructing some sort of garage or garage door. And also what concerns me about what you also said is that, you said that people can't consume in your store, and that is true, but that is, you also just said it's not your responsibility what they do when they leave outside, and that's what we're very concerned about, because there's already a high prevalence of drug use, marijuana use, literally on that block. So I just wanted to make a note, because I heard you speak up about that just a few minutes ago. But my question, I just wanted to bring attention, because I do walk that alley every single day, about the parking and the delivery. So I just wanted to make a note for the meeting. Thank you.
All right, Christina Shepherd, I see your hand.
Okay, I just wanted to chime in. I know I can tell like a lot of us are getting a little heated because this is so passionate. This is so important to us. Our neighborhood is so important to us. And I know, we've worked really, really hard to clean up the alley. And I mean, really hard. We've put in tons of our own money to clean up the alley on the other side of the street. So not because my backyard looks over, where this shop is going to be. But I just want to tell, the owners, Erica and Roger, like, this is not like, we have nothing. This isn't personal toward you. I know it feels personal because it's your business, but like, it has nothing to do with you. We are just literally, and again, just echoing all these concerns. I just want to make sure that you all don't feel like this is like a personal thing. It really is. Our concerns are like safety, security, and because I see cars blowing down Bryant Street every day. And my daughter is out there running around. The kids in the neighborhood are out there running around. Like, you're right. You can't control who consumes what they consume once they get out of your establishment. And this is honestly and I also want to just chime in too. I want to make sure you know that it's also not like, we don't want a Georgetown cupcake shop there. Like, that's not what the neighborhood needs. There are other needs. There are other things that this neighborhood needs. And another cannabis shop, another like a cupcake shop. We don't need those things here. We need something more substantial that benefits the community, and that the risk of safety of the community is like way lower. So anyways, I just wanted to put that out there. And again, let you guys know that it's not personal. And, if you ever want to come talk to me, I live on Bryant Street. I'm happy to chat with you and tell you my concerns in person. I'm sure you guys are like really lovely people. So anyways, I just wanted to make sure you knew that we're heated, but we're like this because we're worried, and we're really invested in our community. And that's it.
All right, Caroline, I see your hand, and then we'll go to the applicant, and we'll close this section and move on. We'll go to the other items on our agenda.
Hey, I just wanted to clarify, having asked a question, I just wanted to clarify that I think we all have to remember we voted as a city to decriminalize marijuana, and I am much more in favor of a regulated business such as this than the ones that people have noted that are unregulated and unlicensed, which I think it's a problem that the district has allowed those to happen. But they are following the rules and applying for this. And I think there are legitimate concerns that everyone has raised, and that could be addressed through a settlement agreement. And I'm concerned that the settlement agreement has not come together. But I just wanted to express as a neighbor that if they can abide by the settlement agreement, we shouldn't take out the fact that other establishments in this neighborhood, like other liquor stores that we can all name, who are not abiding by being good neighbors, should not be taken out on a new business unilaterally just to exist.
Caroline, I just want to say, I think that's a really fair point. I think that we've heard from a lot of neighbors here. Your voices are very much heard. But I do want to separate cannabis use from regulated medical cannabis licensing. And I think that's one of the issues as we've been sorting through like the licensing process and kind of our parameters in which we can kind of feed into APCA. Just wanted to kind of make sure that we're kind of focusing our feedback there. So I think we've discussed this topic quite fully. Everyone has been heard. I will go to the applicant. Any kind of last thoughts, and then we'll move on.
Yeah, I have a question for Mr. Galvin. Should we circle back after this? Like, do you want to reach out to me via email?
Yeah, no, we can keep our lines of communication open. Yeah,
Right.
definitely.
And then Christina, if you're in the neighborhood this weekend, maybe Saturday, we'll come by there. Christina Shepherd.
Great. All right. Okay, thank you so much. We're going to go to our consent agenda now, and then this item is on our action agenda, just to kind of loop back on procedural things. It is 8:22. Thank you so much for being engaged neighbors. So I'm going to go through the items that are on the consent agenda because the slate is quite robust. So I'm going to read those out loud. Just give me one moment. Okay, we have A through J. So hang with me. Thank you. I'm not going to read out. They're all linked on our website if you'd like to just see the substance of them. There are a lot of words and a lot of beautiful pictures, courtesy of Commissioner Bishop Henchman in some of them. On the consent agenda, and any commissioner can request to remove an item from the consent agenda. So we have resolution requesting actions to prevent injuries on the Metropolitan Branch Trail. B, resolution in support of the Vacant to Vibrant Amendment Act. C, resolution requesting retention of bus stops at 4th Street and Todd Place Northeast. D, resolution calling for safety countermeasures at New York Avenue Northeast and Florida Avenue Northeast crossing. E, resolution calling for a DDOT to investigation into citywide protected bike lanes on Q or R Street Northeast and Northwest connecting to the Metropolitan Branch Trail. F, resolution requesting rapid funding and implementation of Initiative 83. G, resolution in support of application BZA 21207, 15 Rhode Island Avenue Northwest. H, resolution in support of application with conditions in BZA 19887A, 1724 North Capitol Street Northwest. I, resolution requesting party status and joint ANC meeting on ZC application relating to 901 Monroe Street Northeast. And J, amendment to ANC 5F 25106, which is our settlement agreement with the warehouse. There's just kind of a pretty procedural amendment that we referred to kind of the incorrect part of the DC code and what we had passed. Would any commissioner like to remove any item from the docket? I don't see any commissioners requesting to remove any items from the consent agenda. So we are going to go into a roll call vote on the items on our consent agenda. I'll start with Commissioner Hurst, who is not present. Commissioner Sani?
Aye. Commissioner
Williams?
I do not see her.
All right, I do not see her present. Commissioner Galvin?
Aye.
Aye. Commissioner Jennifer Anderson is me, and I vote aye. Commissioner Bishop Henchman?
Aye.
Aye. And Commissioner Pinckney? I do not see her present. So with a vote of 4 in favor, 0 against, 0 abstentions, and 3 commissioners not present, this motion passes. Because it is, I'm just going to refer to our secretary and parliamentarian, but I just wanted to double check because it is a majority of our commission as commissioners elected, which is 7, 4 out of 7, this motion passes.
We're good.
Excellent. Great. So then I'm going to go to our action agenda, which is action regarding the family tree, which we have had extensive discussions about. Is there an action on the table?
Before Commissioner Galvin makes a motion, could I ask a question?
Yes.
We don't have an agreement on the settlement agreement yet. And I really do not want to negotiate here and now, although I'm just one vote. So obviously I could get outvoted on that. So what I guess my question is, if we ultimately protest or if we ultimately do a settlement agreement, whatever we want to do, we should vote to protest tonight. That's a question, I guess, for you, Madam Chair.
So our opportunity to protest via a regularly scheduled meeting is the deadline would be today. However, we have had precedent for calling special meetings when we need to meet a protest deadline. My inclination, again, I am one commissioner. I would say that based on the robust discussion that has happened this evening, given that there is kind of a lingering question as to the proximity of this business to a daycare / preschool, and a couple additional lingering questions, I, as one commissioner, would be in favor of perhaps, and also most importantly, that the business, the applicant has been open to negotiating, or at least in this meeting has said that they are open to discussing a settlement agreement. I would say that calling a special meeting to protest, if we would like to enter a protest, is in line with what we've done in the past. So basically that is a long way of saying, I think we have had precedent for not taking action on this evening and calling a special meeting once those questions and kind of the settlement discussions progress. If they stall, I think we enter the protest. I think that I have more questions than answers, I think the voice of the community is loud and clear though. Commissioner Sani.
I would point out, I think we do have one more APCA committee meeting before the protest deadline. So that could be like a good time for, like, obviously discussion should continue beyond this immediate meeting, but I believe that sounds like people are willing to like meet and talk and see face to face, and we can check in after a committee meeting especially and get something in place if we do need to protest.
Yeah. And I think we've also set precedent in the past before, whether it be zoning applicants or ABRA applicants, where they come, they talk to the committee, they address the full ANC, and we generally, when schedules permit and kind of the timeline fits with that they usually present to the full meeting, and then we don't take action until the next meeting. I would love to continue to kind of set that rhythm, understanding that it's not always possible because of the practicalities of deadlines. But that is my take. We've heard Commissioner Sani's take. Commissioner Bishop Henchman, I think you've raised your take as a question. Commissioner Galvin, kind of going to you, since you had put this on the agenda.
Yeah, no, I think I'm happy to hear that they're engaged. I still think, some discussion is worthwhile. I'm not unopen to that. However, I think a pretty strong case can be said for a protest for this license, and that once if that's what the commission as a whole is interested in doing, then that can continue the conversations, and not end those there, right? I mean, just like we've had with others that were still negotiations on alcohol licensing, for Edgewood International, for example. It's still in process. But I think there are some significant legitimate concerns that I'm very sympathetic to, and given the proximity and the challenges of that area, I think it's worthwhile. So I would still like to request it, but if commissioners are willing to let us continue and okay with doing a separate meeting later on, a special separate meeting later on. You know, I'm not unopen to that either. I am open to that as well. But I think, yeah, it's been, I feel like it's been fairly robust and pretty obvious. But there's still reason for openness.
Okay, great. So commissioners spoken on this issue. With that noted, is there a commissioner who would like to have an action on this item? Like a formal, is there a motion on the table? Is my question.
Yeah, so I would like to motion the resolution to protest the medical cannabis license for Abra, the 127,855. And I can read it aloud if you would prefer. I've tried to simplify it. And it was basically, you know, substantially similar to the email that I had sent for the agenda. But
I'd appreciate it being read out loud. If it,
no problem.
Is it a paragraph or is it like a page?
It's like a half a page.
All right.
But again, a lot of this stuff may not be necessary. And if you give me, you know, rights, I can share my screen, Commissioner Sani, if that's easier.
Yeah, it should be.
Hold on. There we go. I can do that.
Parliamentarian, as you've been, or unofficial parliamentarian. Can I move for a motion with another motion on the table, or do we have to resolve this before?
You can either, yes, you can, is the short answer.
Okay, great. While Commissioner Galvan is pulling up the
Can you see that?
We can, yes. Much more than a paragraph.
Well, some of it's just outlining the basics of what we talked about today.
But the substance of it, just for those of you who are here in person, actually Commissioner Sani is pulling it up on his computer so that you can see, but essentially the meat of the meat of the resolution is to protest in the absence of a settlement agreement on the basis of the establishment's impact on neighborhood peace, order, and quiet. Basically the three, I'll just read out loud. Impact on neighborhood peace, order, and quiet, pedestrian safety and vehicular traffic, real property values of nearby residential properties, residential parking, and location to nearby daycare center, and security and sanitation of the area around the premises. Okay, so Commissioner Galvan has motioned to essentially put this resolution to vote, which he is sharing on the screen. I am going to make a motion to schedule a special meeting regarding this issue, a date to be decided on email so that we don't do that. A date that is in agreement with all the commissioners to discuss this issue.
Just so I have this correctly, Madam Chair, what I've written down is Commissioner Galvan moved to adopt resolution to protest medical cannabis license Abra 127855, and I'll second that, by the way. And then you moved to amend it by striking all and moving to instead to schedule a special meeting at a date convenient to commissioners to discuss the application. Is that correct?
Yes, I am moving not to amend the resolution, but to schedule a special meeting regarding the license.
In lieu of Commissioner Galvan's motion or in addition to Commissioner Galvan's motion?
In lieu of.
Okay, so it is a strike all amendment.
Oh, right. Okay, strike all the. Okay, sorry. I thought you meant strike the resolution.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So point of order here. If there's a second on the floor for this resolution or this motion, does it go to a vote?
So you move something and it was seconded, and now Commissioner Anderson has moved something. Presumably it will be seconded, and then we will debate Commissioner Anderson's motion first, and then the underlying motion after that.
Great. So is there a second for my motion?
Second.
Great. Commissioner Sani has seconded. So debate ensues regarding the motions or the substance of the motions. I guess the substance of the motions.
I guess just a question on kind of there's subtext here. So let's put the subtext on the table. What is everybody wanting to do with this application?
So I think based on the points that I have raised earlier, as we were closing out the section of the presentations of the applicant, I think that perhaps there was kind of a procedural, like maybe a missing of the email, maybe a misunderstanding that the applicant didn't receive the settlement agreement. And I think perhaps in the committee meeting, it was about, please look at the settlement agreement that we had passed previously because it would be substantively similar. So I think that the applicant not engaging with the settlement agreement before this meeting seems to be a little bit of a logistical mismatch rather than a substantive, they have not responded. I think there was just a misunderstanding there. Second, as I've kind of outlined, we have precedent for arranging for special meetings, especially when there is a lot of community engagement in this issue. And believe me, I hear the voice of the community regarding the usage of cannabis and the sale of cannabis, illegal and legal. However, I do have some lingering questions, mostly for ABCA, primarily on kind of the 300 feet rule and whether that applies here. Because I think if the 300 feet rule applies here, then this discussion is moot, I think. Like if it doesn't pass and if it's within 300 feet, then this license has no standing, right? So I think we have some follow-up questions regarding that. I think those were my points.
Question, Chair Anderson. I know we've had precedents of protesting alcohol licenses when there was not a settlement agreement, like we did with Max, correct? So I'm wondering what's the difference between that in this case that, allows, the ANC to engage with the applicant in addition to kind of continuing those productive conversations. Yeah.
I think that's a fair point. I think where I stand, where I personally, I will just kind of put my cards on the table. I think based on the conversations that have been had, I do not feel ready to protest this license at the moment because I think I would be ready to abstain the protest. But I think because of the lingering questions that I have for ABCA and the applicant's willingness to engage in the settlement agreement process, that I do not feel ready to protest this license at this particular moment in time. I think that given that there was that little bit of a miscommunication of whether that settlement agreement was going to be set prior to the meeting, I think that, to me, I think the big issue here is I don't see the big difference between the warehouse application and this particular license. While I think the voices of the community are very apparent, I don't feel ready to protest the license at this particular junction. That doesn't mean I wouldn't protest it in the future. That just means I have lingering questions that I'm not able to have answered at this particular moment, including that 300 feet rule. Because I think there was also kind of the question of, I think someone online had said it's within 282 feet. I think the applicant had said if it was 282 feet, this license wouldn't stand. They would have had to have that passed before ABCA. I do want to have that answer. I do want to have that answered before the protest is entered.
Okay.
Does anyone else have a point?
I just wanted to say that I concur with Commissioner Anderson. I think the logistical question about settlement agreement being transmitted or not, when we have members of our community or people who want to move into our community as businesses who are willing to engage with us in that good faith, I want to make sure that we kind of maintain that. And so I feel that if that did not go out in a timely fashion and they were just finding out now, I'd want to give them time, and the commission and committees time to engage with them, see if there is a middle ground, and perhaps enter into something voluntary, but also fully acknowledging that there are issues beyond that. But I think there are some discussions, as it sounds like, that still need to happen in the community. So I would gladly support a special meeting just to make sure we've crossed those T's and dotted those I's.
That's much more eloquently stated. That's what I was trying to say.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm open to that. I know there's only 4 of us today, so it sounds like we're a little bit of a lock jam. So why don't I motion or I guess
The
endorse
fastest way
your
to do this is just to vote on everything. So
Okay.
First
But-
on Commissioner Anderson's amendment, and then on the underlying resolution as amended, if it passes.
But also parliamentarian, the vote is, in order for a resolution to pass, it has to be, is it based on commissioners in office or commissioners present?
Commissioners present.
Present.
Okay.
If we
got
have
it.
a quorum, it's commissioners present. Yeah.
Okay, got it. Okay. All right, so we have the amendment. So we need to vote on, sorry, we have a motion. We need to vote on the motion. Let's just go and do roll call since there are 4 of us. So I vote to support the motion that I put on the floor to request to schedule a special meeting. Commissioner Sani?
I vote aye in support of that.
Commissioner Bishop Henchman?
Aye.
Oh, sorry, I should have gotten order. Commissioner Galvin? I'm
Aye.
going the order on my screen. Okay, so with 4 ayes, this motion passes to schedule a special meeting regarding this matter at a mutually convenient time. I think the motion also vacated the previous motion, so I think we move on, correct?
No, now we vote on it as amended with a roll call.
Oh, got it. So that was to vote on the motion. So now we vote.
So that was to vote on your amendment, which struck all of the language and inserted your language. And so now that's what we have in front of us.
Got it. So now we are voting to actually schedule whether we want to schedule the meeting. Great. So I'm just going to go in order. I vote aye. Commissioner Asani, how do you vote?
Aye.
Commissioner Bishop Henchman.
Aye.
Commissioner Galvin.
Aye.
Great. So with 4 votes in favor, 0 abstentions, 0 against, this motion passes to schedule a special meeting on this matter. All right, that was the only item on our action agenda. So unless there are any other points regarding this item, great. Let us move on to our Verizon, our reports and presentations. Verizon Wireless Tower Project. Shay.
All right.
You have the floor.
Okay, I put together a little
Thank you.
presentation. And I can also send you a digital copy of this.
Great.
You can disseminate it to anyone who wants it. Hi, everybody. I'm Shay Beltran with Network Building and Consulting, representing Verizon Wireless. Sorry. Here to discuss a proposed monopole project in your neighborhood. Verizon is proposing the installation of a 94-foot tall monopole as well as auxiliary equipment and a backup generator located at McKinley Tech High School. It will replace an existing 80-foot tall light pole, and this new monopole will utilize the existing light fixture to help reduce the need for additional towers and monopoles in the area. Verizon antennas are going to be installed near the top of this tower. The tower will have room for additional carriers to come and co-locate on the tower, whether that's T-Mobile, AT&T, whomever, again, reducing the need for additional towers in the neighborhood. A little bit of background how we got here. Verizon approached us to express a service need in the area. They give us what is called a search ring, or a radius in a neighborhood where they have identified limited or no service, capacity too high, or drop calls, etc. It's then on our site acquisition team to drive this ring, engage with property owners, whether that be businesses, not so much in DC, but in counties, private property owners as well, to identify a candidate best suited to locate our antennas to serve your neighborhood. After several discussions with property owners, we landed on McKinley Tech High School to best suit our needs. A lot of factors involved in that, such as the elevation, the willingness of the property owner to work with us. We are currently in leasing negotiations with District of Columbia to discuss this. The next step would be me here gaining your support before I submit to the Board of Zoning Adjustments for my special exception application. We put together, the next page is just our site plan of where it would be located. In the center there is where the existing 80-foot or 82-foot tall light pole would be. We'd be replacing it with our slightly taller telecom tower.
Just how tall comparatively?
94 is the total height after. Next page is just a enlarged compound layout. There are a couple of cabinets and equipment that would be located on the floor. All of that would be fenced in inside a wrought iron fence. The backup generator would be there for emergency situations only. It would only need to run for, I believe, an hour or two max per year, just for testing purposes, unless, of course, there was an emergency situation where all power was lost. Next page is a site elevation. You can see at that 82-foot elevation, I believe, is where the existing lights will be co-located onto this pole, and then our antennas would be above the lights. Below the lights, we've left ample space for additional carriers to come and co-locate if they would like to. And then I just put a Google Maps view of where it would be located. And we also put together some photo simulations to envision what this tower would look like from various points in the neighborhood. I believe we took photos from 5 different locations surrounding the neighborhood. 4 out of 5 of them, the tower was not visible. View number 5 was from the southwest. On that last page, you can see the shot of the light pole there, and then the page after that shows a simulation of what it would look like with our antennas installed on it. So sorry, each page is a photo from a different position in the neighborhood where we were not able to get a sight line of this tower. And then the last page, last 2 rather, shows an existing photo versus a proposed photo. So that would be the existing, and you can see almost in the middle, a little to the left, is the existing light pole, and the next page would show what it would look like with our antennas.
That?
Yes.
Sorry. Okay.
Yes.
Got it.
And so one of our main focuses is, to limit the visibility and the change to the sight lines and the cityscape here. That's a big reason we choose to utilize existing structures. In this situation, there were no existing structures that were structurally feasible to co-locate our antennas on. So instead, we would replace an existing structure, again, to minimize just additional towers going up everywhere. So my next step, I expect to submit our special exception application with the Board of Zoning Adjustments in the next coming weeks. I would respectfully request a letter of support from ANC 5F to go with my BZA application. And with that, I'll open it up to any questions from anyone.
Great. Any questions from commissioners? Commissioner Benjamin and Commissioner Galvin, I apologize that we did not share the presentation with you. There's a physical presentation
I
here.
I can send it to you right now.
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind
Yes.
sending that to us, to me.
5F at-
Yeah, 5F@anc.dc.gov, and we can all look at it. I apologize, I should have asked for that before.
No, I should have sent it before. Sorry about that.
So two questions. The location I think is behind the bleachers, and so correct me if I'm wrong on that. And then the second question is, do you know when BZA is acting on this application?
So I have not submitted the application yet. Typically, after an application is accepted by the BZA, they schedule a hearing. It depends on how loaded they are. It can be 3 to 4 months out. So I expect sometime mid to late spring.
Okay, and procedurally, like, you don't need a letter from the ANC to submit your application. While I'm sure you would appreciate, you can submit it after your application.
Correct.
Like your file's been
I can
pulled.
submit
Yeah.
it, and it's actually typically preferred to submit ahead of time because the letter ideally would name the application number.
I see.
So once I have it submitted, I'll keep in touch with everyone here, supply the application number to you. You guys can log on and view the application online. All that.
And then we can submit it after.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Commissioner Galvin?
Yeah, I had a quick question about radiation levels radiation levels from the antenna itself. And if I'm not mistaken, there's some pretty high levels within several feet or meters or something like that. And maybe that's not a problem here, but can you talk to what that is for this particular installation?
Sure. Yeah. So all these antennas are going to operate within the FCC regulated guidelines of maximum exposure limits. You are, when you say high levels within several feet, while that may be true, this is 90 feet above ground level. So anyone passing below this will be well within a safe range of that.
Are there any?
Great, thank you.
Yep.
Just with respect, kind of to add on to that, given that it's at a school, like, is there any concern with like populations that are more vulnerable to radiation or anything like that?
No, there's no concerns there. This is far away from any levels that could be concerning.
Are there any, has there been, what has your engagement with McKinley Tech, the kind of the staff at McKinley Tech been like?
So I will need to get back to you on those discussions. One of my colleagues is our real estate manager, but I believe his discussions have been with DC government and DC schools and not necessarily with these schools specifically.
Okay. Any other commissioners have any questions before we go to members of the public? All right, great.
Actually, sorry, one more. What services will this kind of do? Because we already have like a level of service in the community, like what with the additional, I guess, backhaul and everything else that feeds into it, what will kind of the impact be on the neighborhood in terms of quality of wireless service?
So I am pending a couple pieces of documentation from our RF engineers with Verizon, but this would provide 4G LTE and 5G coverage. A lot of times, especially recently, these new towers that are going up are specifically to address capacity, not necessarily a gap in coverage. By capacity, I mean everyone and their mothers and their kids and their dogs and everybody has a device. Everyone's on it all the time. These antenna systems get overloaded and can cause drop calls, slow service, loss of connection, et cetera. So these types of sites are there to address capacity.
That's a helpful, I think, point, because I don't know, a couple months ago, there were concerns about like wireless connectivity on essentially in the winter here, right? And I think that may have to do more with the construction of these buildings, kind of concrete walls. I'm not an engineer, but was just curious whether that would
maybe it's
increase.
purely anecdotal, and for what it's worth, this is coming from me, but I didn't have much service walking up to this building.
You did not?
No,
Verizon?
Especially when I got into this.
No, it was like,
this
it's like a
corridor.
been issue,
Yeah.
because I think like, especially with 911 calls, people
Sure.
haven't been able to make them. So
And
I was
that's a
wondering if that would
huge concern.
increase service into this area with the tower. I imagine also that depends on whether they have Verizon or not, but just whether that would impact anything.
Sure.
Question mark. Would it impact service?
Would it?
Like increase service into this area with this?
That's the goal,
surgery?
yes.
Okay,
Yes.
got it. Okay, let's go to members of the public. We see, oh, go ahead, yes, absolutely.
I just got a text. There was when we passed the resolution on the consent calendar, somebody said they were raising a hand and they wanted to.
So during we have a couple, areas in which we acknowledge members of the public to speak. We had a pretty extensive public comment period in the beginning. Action items are ones where we engage in discussions, which we kind of outlined in the beginning of if you wanted to engage on the cannabis license that we talked about, that was a place to acknowledge it. But any other items should have come during public comment, and that the consent agenda, as we kind of talked about, that's a procedural item where we don't engage members of the public before we vote, because that should have come during the public comment.
I know they
Yeah.
said if they raised their hand, they wanted to acknowledge. That's all I'm just.
Yeah, absolutely. Just I was just providing context for that, so that because the procedural item where the commissioners are voting, we don't necessarily go to members of the public, because there were sections of the meeting where we engage members of the public, and there are parts where we're kind of procedural and we continue with voting. So that's what happened there. Yeah, absolutely. All right, I see DC Jones. You're recognized.
Sure, I posted a question in the chat, and I hear that a couple people made comment. Well, you asked the question, or someone asked the question, and the gentleman responded that this does not, it's not a health concern, and it seemed like there was just a question: is this a possible health concern? The gentleman says that this is not seen as a health concern, but we know that Ward 5 is noted for having cancer clusters and disproportionate impact of cancer-related issues, oftentimes environmentally caused. And so, as opposed to just saying, is this a problem, and getting a no, seems like a study should be done to make sure that this is not a problem, because we already have a record of having the lack of oversight that is causing environmental cancer hazards to people in Ward 5. And this is going to be on a campus with children and teachers. There needs to be something more concrete than just is it's a problem and a no.
Can I address that?
Yeah.
So there actually have been extensive studies done, and telecommunication antennas do not pose a cancer risk. If you would like to leave your contact information in the chat, I can get it from Chair Anderson and send you some literature regarding that.
I don't need literature. I think it needs to be on the record in the community, not just for me in a one-to-one. We have other people that have been victims that are not likely on this call, that may be in other wards. So I'd rather it be publicly recorded if there's evidence to support that this is not a problem, not just a one-on-one experience, but for the entire community in Ward 5. And our council members should be aware of this.
If you want to share that out with us, when we post the documents from this meeting on our website, we'd include this presentation plus whatever supporting documents we're providing. They'll be publicly available on the nc5f.com.
And would be on the record to address the concerns?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, that'd be great. I wonder if that's something where I don't know whether that falls under the parameters of the BZA license, but whether I know that for certain zoning issues, this is the first kind of type of issue that I've encountered, but I think in other BZA cases, different agencies are required to respond. So let's say that you're doing an alley construction, like the EMS has to basically survey the area to make sure that vehicles go through. I wonder, because of this special type of project, whether Department of Health, I don't know what the appropriate agency would be, whether agencies can be asked to respond to this issue. So I'm just kind of putting that out there as a question for us to investigate. Any other questions or comments regarding this item from the public? Or commissioners? All right, great. Well, thank you so much. Thank you.
I'll say it's not sending. I think my connection's
you don't have to do it now.
Yeah, you don't have to do it now.
Get it to you in the morning?
Well, yeah, in the morning's
Wonderful.
fine, and then
Okay.
we'll share that on the ANC 5 website as well, so that everyone can look for the presentation as well. Okay. With that noted, let's go to the final item on our agenda: committee and task force updates. Melissa, are you on? We see you. We will unmute you now for the alcohol and cannabis licensing committee update.
Hi there. Thank you so much. My name is Melissa Coughlin. I am the chair of the Alcohol and Cannabis Licensing Committee. We had our November meeting on the 6th of November. Family Tree was there and gave a presentation, as we've talked about a lot this evening. There's a couple of other community members. We had a really productive discussion about the establishment's aim. The protest deadline for this is on the 9th of December, so looking forward to further action from the ANC at the next special meeting. There were no other new applications or renewals for either alcohol nor cannabis establishments at this time. And our December meeting will be online on the 4th of December. So it's always the first Wednesday of the month online at 7 p.m. It's agenda driven. So the agenda is to be determined depending on if we have anything new. We might be looking at a revised cannabis settlement agreement, like depending on how things go with the discussions with the Family Tree. And then just in some ABCA news, so ABCA continues to work on the enforcement of illegally operating cannabis shops. Since March, they've issued 87 warning letters. They've embargoed products at 72 locations. They've issued 83 letters of infractions, and they've closed 41 establishments. So that's great. They're finally getting their act together with regards to that. I know we've got a couple of unlicensed establishments in ANC 5F, so looking forward to potentially some future action from them in our district. Also for ABCA, effective today, their new headquarters are relocated to 899 North Capitol Street Northeast on the 4th floor. And then just some upcoming training. There's a thing called ABCA 101 on the 17th of December. It's online from 10 to 11 a.m. It's hosted by Sarah Uyghur. So if anyone's curious about how ABCA works, they can register online through the ABCA website. And then I just had a question for the commission. I know we had some unresolved questions around cannabis licensing that we wanted to go back to ABCA with. Do you want the committee to do that, or do you want somebody from the ANC to do that?
Just to add on to that, Sarah is the community resource officer at ABCA. She's a massive resource, and she always picks up your phone, whether you're a commissioner or like, just call her if you ever have any questions, and she'll pick up and provide context on any issue. So highly recommend the training, but also if you ever have a question, just call Sarah. Regarding the questions, I am planning on calling Sarah tomorrow just because I think this is our first protest. I want to make sure that we are doing things by the book. So I am happy to have the commission do that.
Okay, if you need any support from the committee, let us know. I'm also putting in the chat, we have an alcohol cannabis licensing community feedback form that we provide every week, and I'm just deleting a whole bunch of things, sorry. I'm putting it in the chat to the secretary, I think, so if they can share that, that would be great. Other than that, that's all that we have. If anyone has questions, feel free to ask. Other than that, I'll just yield the time back.
Great, thank you so much. Any questions, comments? Perfect. Mr. Price, Public Safety and Health.
Thank you. Good evening, commissioners. Good evening, neighbors. A few updates on our part for Public Safety and Health. As of last Thursday, the Public Safety and Health Committee worked with ANC 6B's Public Safety Committee and held the DC Community Public Safety Forum on gun violence reduction strategies. We successfully had 55 people show up live for it with 208 registrants for the webinar. We had 6 panelists for it. It was a lovely conversation. It was fully recorded. So for all of you that could not join us for that, I highly recommend, if you want a really good discussion on DC crime, as well as a lot of institutions that have been doing incredible work across the city to reduce gun violence across DC. The recording is in the Google folder for the Public Safety and Health Committee, which is located on ANC 5F's website. Next steps for that, we've outlined a ton of different next steps. We also have all of the resources from all the panelists compiled in that Google folder. But the biggest next step is we are in the process of working with ANCs across DC to create a meta resolution so that every ANC ideally can pass a resolution on the strategies outlined by those organizations to reduce gun violence that is evidence-based and community-driven approaches. So we are currently in the process of getting commissioners on board to help us with the resolution process, and our Public Safety and Health Committee will be leading that work, which is pretty cool. So that's the big update. Our next meeting, for those looking to join, we can use all the help we can get, is this Thursday, November 21st from 6 to 7:30 p.m., located in the Eckington Judd and Wheeler Community Room with a Zoom option available for those that want to attend. We will be talking about our community engagement strategy. Thank you to Commissioner Galvan for printing out the flyers and brochures, which we have in person and we'll bring in person to the meetings as incentive for anyone that wants to join us in person for the general ANC meetings. And I have to thank my fiance for helping to fold at least 100 of these. So thank you to everyone. So one note that I have, I realized that Nicole Jones asked to be appointed and voted on today to be a part of the committee. So if that could, I don't know if that's
I
added.
believe
or
the
if that's-
nomination section's at the end,
Yeah.
so we can.
I didn't see it listed, so I just wasn't sure. It's just on the fly.
Well,
That's
we
fine.
can, yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Um,
on that. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Gavan. And last but not least, just the public safety health tip that I give. Just think about food insecurity for our neighbors. I know that Sam was on earlier from Commissioner from Councilmember Parker's office. Just as to reiterate that, they're holding a holiday turkey giveaway on November 20th from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. at Turkey Thicket. And they're looking for volunteers. So for those of you that are looking to help actively feed community members that are experiencing food insecurity, I highly recommend messaging Melissa Littlepage, who's Councilmember Parker's communications director. There are also other events that are happening across the city, especially in Ward 5. Bread for the City is a wonderful organization that's hosting a holiday helping program where community members can sign up and pick up bags that contain like turkeys and chicken and also culturally appropriate seasonal bags as well for Latin communities as well as Asian communities. And that will be held from now up until November 26th from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. at both of their locations, which is at 1525 7th Street Northwest, which is the Shaw Howard University Metro Station, and 1700 Marion Barry Avenue in Southeast, which is the Anacostia Metro Station. So think about food insecurity, think about how you can help and volunteer at some of those locations. That's all I got for you.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Aaron Price. Thanks for your hard work. Any questions, any comments? Great, if not noted, we'll move on. Taps with Commissioner Sani.
I'll keep this short and sweet. We had a productive discussion where we workshopped some resolutions and continue to do so around some pedestrian improvements in Edgewood that we're still trying to get some good historical context on before we put in further resolutions around that. But yeah, kind of a quiet moment because there haven't been a lot of TSIs. There have not been quite a lot of NOIs filed by VDOT. So given what came through today with regards to the North Capitol and Rhode Island realignment, I'm sure we'll have consulting around that in something maybe in preparation for the commission for December's meeting. But yeah.
Great. Excellent. Any questions? Amazing. Zoning and development, any updates there? Is Mr. Stone on or Commissioner Bishop?
If he's not here, I can give the update.
Yeah.
Zoning and Development Committee met on November 13th, and we had a number of items where BZA or ZC, or I think it was just BZA, had requested an ANC 5F report. These are items that are just outside 5F to the east and west, but were within 200 feet. And so accordingly, BZA had asked us to act, and that's what the commission did earlier. So thank you to everybody for supporting those action items. The The one relating to 901 Monroe Street, that's kind of a just filed thing in ZC Zoning Commission. I don't even think we have a ZC docket number yet, or at least we didn't as of yesterday. But what we're proposing in the resolution we adopted earlier is looking at it together with 5B, because it's really right on the line at Brookland Metro, that development. So more to come on that, I'm sure. Next ZAD meeting will be December 18th.
Thank you so much. Any questions? Okay, great. And I think the library task force, we're holding on updates till January.
Actually,
okay.
So the chair of that task force, Ed Garnett, is on.
Great.
Recognize him.
Hi, thanks. I guess sorry, couldn't figure out how to turn my video on, but I'll just say hello. Quick update from the library task force. We're meeting now every second Tuesday. That meeting information is on the ANC 5F website if you'd like to join us. I'll also drop into the chat a just sort of broad overview of the library project. Right now, we're still in the site selection phase. The library task force has been engaging with DCPL and their contractor partner called Link over the last several months to gather public input from the community. We provided contacts for schools and community groups to Link. Link has really been doing the legwork on a survey, promoting a survey, and the task force has been assisting that. The report was due to DCPL on September 30th. Anybody who works in sort of a government environment knows how those end of fiscal year deadlines go. So I think we're still waiting for DCPL to relay that report to the task force and to the broader community. Thanks to Sam Bonar from the council member's office and Aru and Mark and the mayor's office who've just played a sort of coordination role in the last couple of days with DCPL, but it sounds like DCPL is going to come to our January 14th meeting to present that report, which will hopefully give some more details on their thoughts on site selection, which I'm sure will be exciting for everyone. I'll stop there. Happy to take any questions and always happy to have people join us on the second Tuesday of every month.
While people think of their questions, I just want to jump in and thank you for stepping up to help lead the task force. I know you kind of had a nebulous edict of help DC find a good spot in their community and like work with them to engage the community, and really appreciate you building some structure around that, and yeah, just moving it forward and showing we're engaged and willing to be partners. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Art. I appreciate the responsibility, and yeah, pushing it forward is exactly what I'm trying to do, in whatever little way we can all move it forward. That's my goal.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Any next item on the agenda is appointments to committees or task forces. Any appointments?
Yes, I'd like to add Nicole Jones to the Public Safety and Health Committee, or nominate her for that.
Great. Any second?
Second.
Any objections? Congratulations, Nicole. You are on the committee. Any other appointments? Amazing. I would like to motion to adjourn. Are there any seconds?
Seconded.
Great. Any objections? All right. At 9:13 p.m. we are adjourned. Thank you so much for everyone's engagement tonight.